All right. Thanks, Daryl. Appreciate it as always. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Allison Ostrander, and I am the Director of Risk Tolerance here at Simpler Trading. And I am very excited to talk to you guys about my high volatility trading strategies that I have been using this past year in this market, in the Profit Recycling Mastery and in my other accounts. So let's go ahead and get started. This is an example of a trade that I took in the $500 challenge, which for those of you who don't know what that is, I will be talking about that a little bit later tonight. But it was an SPX end of day lotto pin trade. Some of you guys might know that about me if you've been following me at all this year. It's one of the big strategies that I've been using that's been working out overall pretty well. And this is one that I took back on May 4th. It cost me $1.30 to get into. You can see the trade down here where it filled in Thinkorswim. And we played it into the close. The majority of the time on these trades, I let them cash settle because, uh, like the $500 challenge states, the account only starts off with $500 a month at the start of the month. So I really like to try and keep my risk as small as possible. And I also try to avoid those pesky day trading rules as much as I can. So we let this one cash settled. It closed at 4,317 cents. Our pin was 4,300, right? So we ended up getting a cash settlement of 983, which was an $853 profit and a 656% return on the risk. So certainly not a bad risk versus reward there. And it's a great strategy that's been working in these volatile markets. So just a few things we'll go over for tonight. We'll talk just a little bit about my trading journey for anyone who doesn't know me, and how I got about trading and the lessons I learned towards the start of it, as well as what the market's currently doing, right? Strategies used in this market, things that I have found successful, and I want to share that with you guys, as well as the importance of risk management. As you might have guessed from my title here at Simpler, risk is my number one priority. And most important about that, right, is keeping my risk controlled and well within my tolerance while allowing myself to have a nice profit potential and reward possibility. And then, of course, account sizes, right? What kind of account do you need, even in this market environment, to potentially trade successfully? So, for those of you who don't know, at the start of my trading journey, I was actually just graduating with a BFA in theater performance from SFA. And after, proving I knew what I was doing, my dad really wanted me to get into trading. He actually wanted all the kids to get into trading, but that obviously sounded like a much better job to me than waiting tables. So I was like, yes, this sounds like something I want to do. So I, started paper trading, started watching online webinars. And once I kind of proved that I knew what I was doing, paper trading and stuff, that I was able to turn a profit off that, I ended up doing some one-on-one coaching, completely recouped my in total capital within my first live trade on the coaching fees and still netted a profit. And it wasn't long after that I found, myself working for my coach actually in a startup company, helping with trade alerts and support behind the scenes. So not only have I been trading for a while now, but I've actually been on the education side of trading for a while too. And trading obviously became a second passion of mine. As soon as I took that real money trade, and locked it in, I was hooked. And I've always loved to teach. My original thought was to go into teaching for theater eventually, and it just kind of, turned to the left, and now I'm teaching for stocks and tradings. Um, and I started my trading career. And quickly, as I started trading, I was learning my mistakes as well as trying to help teach others to avoid those same pitfalls. So I used to trade both very large and very small accounts. I actually started with very large accounts, helping family manage their retirement accounts and things like that. And I'd become frustrated at times with the limited way I could trade the smaller accounts. I knew there had to be a better way to grow these accounts while still keeping in mind risk tolerance. And many traders, that I would talk to or that I would end up coaching were over investing, right? They ended up blowing out their accounts too little, too late. And that's when I perfected, strategies to take advantage of these intraday moves while managing my risk. And it was perfect for smaller accounts, because I realized that I could take what I've learned about risk tolerance, adapt it then to the smaller accounts, and not only use that to help avoid some of the pesky day trading rules and to grow them, but also adapted to help other traders in the same situation. And that's, not too long after that is actually when I found simpler trading. And after trading in the simpler trading options room for a while and coming out with a few classes and teaching some of my strategies, which you guys might know about, profit recycling, the overnight profit strategy, the compound butterfly strategies, I had many requests from people to start a trade alert service. And so that's when I actually ended up creating my profit recycling mastery program. And so that's just, a little quick insight about myself. And let's dive in now to what the markets are doing in 2022. So in the mastery, right, we've been finding time efficient ways to try and intraday and swing trade options in this market. So volatility, of course, you might notice a Star Wars theme here. I'm a big fan. Um, but obviously volatility is here and it feels like it's here to stay, at least for now, right? The time being. And so what we've experienced in the current market environment is really large ranges, right? We've seen days with over 100-point swings from the high to the low. We have violent moves, right? Sometimes we have huge gaps followed by that strong daily range, either up or to the downside. And then we've had choppy days, right? For those of you who recall, certainly going into the end of last month, right, we are starting to sit inside some of that consolidation. We ran up into resistance and then it kind of felt like it chopped for a bit. And then all of a sudden, boom, there was another big move to the downside. And we ended up dropping back off. And then, of course, the best thing about volatility, I think, is that there are so many intraday opportunities because of the wide daily ranges that we're seeing. So here's a chart of Amazon, right? And mind you, this was taken technically after the stock split. Here's where the stock split was. Um, so it might not look as dramatic as it did prior to the stock split. But remember, this is a 21 stock split. So you can see from the highs around 190, we're now trading closer to $100. So it's been a huge drop in this. And of course, in the S&P, we've dropped quite a bit, right? We were trading at 4,800 as highs, and now we're trading at 3,800, 1,000 points lower. So it just kind of gives you an idea of how much volatile range we've seen in about 6 months, right? Of course, there are other market movers affecting this from a macro standpoint. We have the whole talk of inflation. We have the Fed meetings, which of course are seeing crazy moves potentially happen either the day of or the following day they make an announcement. We have supply chain issues still from COVID, right? With China still locking down and then coming back out and then locking down again. There's still this disruption that's happening around the world. And then, of course, the war in Ukraine with Russia, that's impacting things like wheat. It's also affecting things like gas prices, right? Energy. And so there's a lot of things happening macro in this market environment that's also affecting us this year in general. And so, of course, right, it can kind of be difficult to trade that market environment when you don't know what's going to happen one day into the next from, the situation with Russia and Ukraine, or what's going to happen. Are the Feds going to do a rate hike? Are they maybe going to stall? Is it going to be as dramatic of one as we think? And so I kind of want to talk to you guys some about the risk efficient trading strategies that we've been using in the mastery to help navigate this market environment. So I gathered all my risk management knowledge to come up with this mastery program that incorporates all my styles of trading into one trade alert service. And now I'm able to teach my strategies to people with similar life goals and trading styles too. So here's another example. This is a broken wing butterfly that we did in the mastery. You can see here is another SPX end of day pin trade. Like I said, this is an excellent strategy that's been working out there. You don't have to have your capital on the table for very long, and it can still allow for a very nice risk versus reward. And this was another one I let cash settle, right? So I jumped into this for $1.60. Everything about the technicals was looking like this was going to continue to sell off to the downside. And then the cash settlement did end up putting us nicely in the money to where we took a 483 cash settlement and allowed for a 322 profit potential, which was still over a 200% return on our risk, right? So once again, not a bad risk versus reward, especially in this market when we know volatility is high and in turn option strike premiums are high and everything else. So still a great way to keep the risk low while allowing for a decent profit. The goal of profit recycling mastery is to target short-term moves, of course, without trying to trigger that dreaded 25K day trading rule limitation. For those of you who don't know, if you have an account under 25,000, you are limited to 3, and it's margin, right? Where you can trade option spreads. Then you're limited to 3-day trades in a 7-day period. And if you go over those 3-day trades, they will put a hold on your account until you can either get the account above 25,000 or it's been 90 days. And until then, the only action you can take in your account is closing trades. So it's a very frustrating rule. I have been there before once. It was not fun. Thankfully, it was in one of the larger accounts that I traded back in the day. Well, I say larger, right? As like a medium-sized account, if you will. Um, but it was able to get back above the 25,000 with the trades that I had in there. But it was not fun sitting there like stressing about it, certainly. So I try to avoid that as much as I can. And this strategy can be implemented on both swing style trades as well as intraday moves within the market, with the ability to scale up or down to an account as little as $500. And it's ideal, of course, for traders who seek consistent weekly gains with limited time and capital investment. As I said, I'll be incorporating multiple of my trading strategies into the mastery program. It's a way for you to have an opportunity to try out all of the strategies while taking trades that fit with your schedule. I'm a mom of 2 kids at home, right? They are both currently still under the age of 3. Um, so I can't be sitting in front of my computer all day. It's just not a possibility. So, I'm running around. I'm also doing, of course, stuff outside of trading for Simpler for my job. So, I don't have the full amount of time to necessarily commit, but my strategies allow me to fit that to my schedule. So some of these trades will be using the profit recycling strategies, right? For those of you who don't know me, this is a strategy that is like my love. I do this both on intraday trading to avoid that pesky day trading rule. It's how I take advantage of a lot of these intraday moves when I'm able to. While at the same time, I can use it for swing trades, and it's a great way to keep risk low while still allowing yourself profit potential. These trades are done, like I mentioned, mainly by taking advantage of the intraday moves while avoiding those pesky day trading rules. And the benefit of both profit recycling strategies, profit recycling and the profit fusion strategy, is not only do you lock in a profit and recycle the capital risk back into your account, but you also set up a free zero risk trade. I like to call them a bonus trade, meaning that all the original capital in the trade's protected, right? Ideally, you've locked in a profit ideally. But the best part is you still have on a bonus trade, which can still allow you a very nice profit all on its own. When normally, right, when you profit recycle, it's usually a point where you'd be taking off the trade overall for a profit. But instead of closing it, and certainly instead of triggering that day trading rule, what we do is profit recycle the trade to protect the capital and then create a new bonus trade into that expiration. So here's an example of a profit recycled trade that we did on CTRA. This was actually one of a couple that we've done in there on CTRA. But we started with a long call. We ended up playing it nicely to the upside. So we went ahead and protected our profit. We started with a 145 risk. We profit recycled it at 260. So we ended up locking in a 115 profit, which was a 79% return on our risk. And then we had a bonus trade set up there for that expiration. Another strategy that we've been using a lot this year is the compound butterfly strategies. Butterflies in general, I think, have been excellent in this market because it's a great way to keep your risk limited while still allowing yourself a pretty nice profit potential, depending on how you set up the strikes. But in particular, the compound butterfly strategy has been really good because primarily I like to keep this shorter dated. Usually when I put it on, it's no more than like a week out max. Sometimes we've done in the past, like putting this on several days out. I feel like a week's a good sweet spot though. So, we might enter it on a Monday for Friday's expiration or a Friday going to next Friday's. But however, unlike the normal more short dated trading strategies that have little time for management if the move goes against you, this is a very forgiving strategy that still allows you to take profit even if the underlying price doesn't move in your favor, and it's how you set up the trade. So it takes advantage more of the volatility in this market environment, at least the strategy that we've been incorporating within the compound butterfly strategy. But at the same time, you don't necessarily have to be right on directions as long as you're right on the levels that you're looking for, which is something that we go through in the mastery quite a bit. So who's the compound butterfly strategy for? Well, it's for traders who don't want to be holding onto a trade very long. Like I said, I'm usually in this just for 1 week out or less. It's for anyone who can't sit in front of their computers all day or doesn't want to. Like I said, it's usually a very forgiving strategy. So I usually, put out good till cancel orders. I'll go about my day. I'll have alerts on levels set. But then, other than that, you walk away from it and you check it at the end of the day, maybe, or you wait for your alerts to get triggered for you to take some action if the good till cancel doesn't already close out itself, right? This strategy is great for traders who are uncertain about the market move. Like I mentioned, in the particular strategy that we're using within the compound butterfly strategy, we don't necessarily have to be right on the direction, right? It could go up, it could go down, doesn't really matter as long as we get that volatility, which we know has been the case this year, right? So with this market environment, you can come and anticipate for one thing and the opposite happens. A great example actually was the end of the month. I mentioned in the mastery, there's a monthly support level that I've been eyeing at 39.14 and around 38.50. And earlier in the week, right, we've been holding that level for the most part. So my belief was we would try and hold it into the end of the month, which was today. However, I knew from past times that I had put my, intuition, if you will, on what the market's doing rather than just following the technicals and the strategies. I've ended up hurting myself, right? So I stuck with the strategy and I'm so glad I did because obviously the market did not hold monthly support. We broke down. So my thought of it trying to hold did not happen. However, that's okay because of the forgiveness factor of this strategy. So even though the market moved down, I have a side of this trade that's currently working, which is very nice. And it's, of course, for traders who like a forgiving strategy that still has a great risk versus reward scenario. Like I mentioned, risk is my main factor around everything. I like to try and put as small of a risk out there and maximize the profit potential as much as I can to try and keep that ratio in my favor. So here's an example of one of the compound butterfly strategies that we've been implementing. We had one on basically a broken wing on both the call and put side at levels that we thought the market would hold very well or go and test. And we got into each side around $1.40, $1.45. So in total, we had about a 285 risk out there, right? Still not a bad risk versus reward given the spread widths on each individual one. In the end, we ended up being able this time to close out of the call side for 450. The put side ended up expiring worthless because we had this strong bounce to the upside. And overall, netted a 165 profit, which was a 58% return. So not a bad risk versus reward. But the thing I like about this strategy is there have been times where we've been able to close out both sides due to the volatility. In particular, I remember this day back here as well as this one in the mastery, we took profits on the call side, and then the market immediately sold off that next day and still allowed us to take a profit on the put side by the end of the week. And ideally, right, either side you take the profit on is completely covering your risk on the other side and still netting you some sort of profit. So same day expiration trades, the SPX lotto pin trades. Some of you guys might really know that from me this year because like I said, it's a strategy that I've been doing quite a bit. And the best part is we typically put these on going into the close of market, usually within the last hour or so, sometimes within the last like 20 minutes, even if that's when the setup gives us our entry. And there's no time to manage them, right? So we got to be 100% okay with losing the risk that we put out there because like I mentioned earlier in the webinar, usually I let these trades cash settle. Which once again means I'm not triggering the day trading rule. I think so far for the year on the SPX pin lotto trades, um, for the alerted ones, I've probably day traded like 3, no more than a handful. And I know in the $500 challenge, we've only day traded it like twice. So I really do try to avoid those day trades as much as I can. Certainly, it doesn't mean that you can't day trade if you don't want to, right? But still, with letting them cash settle, overall, they've been working pretty well this year. So oftentimes on these trades, I don't like risking more than $1.50. There are times that I'll pay up to around $1.80, $1.85. but that's usually after I've already taken some profits in my account. So it's, kind of like I'm using the profits for that little bit of extra expense. Otherwise, I really like to keep these around $1.50 or less. For these SPX lotto trade ideas, I want the possibility of a times 2 to times 10 of my capital risk, right? 200 to, I want a good risk versus reward return. I don't want something that's going to be under 100%. Not that it can't be, but I want that profit to potential to be really strong. So the majority of our challenge trades for the $500 challenge have been these SPX Lotto pin trades. At the time I took the snapshot, whenever I made this slide, we actually took a loss that day for the SPX Lotto pin, but we were still up over $3,692 for the year. And keep in mind, this in particular, this screenshot is of my $500 challenge account. So, like I mentioned, I'll talk about this a little bit later, but in short, I only risk $500 at the start of the month, and then we see how much we can grow it by the end of the month. I don't necessarily take a lot of trades every month. There are some trades, when the setup's there, I'll take it. If it's not there, then I'm patient for it. There's one month I think we only put on 3 trades in the month for that account. But overall, keeping in mind the small risk, even after resetting the account each month back to $500, we're still up very nicely for the year on these. So here's another example of those SPX Lotto pin trades. This one I took on May 20th, entered it for $1.25. Once again, this one in this case was a standard butterfly. We had a great target that we were looking for a bounce up. We didn't think it was going to get past that level, which is why we went with the standard. And it didn't, right? It went right towards our pin. It went into 864 for cash settlement, which was a 739% return. Or excuse me, $739 was the profit and a 590% return on the trade. So once again, not a bad risk versus reward. Obviously, that's what I really like about these, is because when you leave the profit potential high like this, when you take a loser, like I did back here, for example, it's easily covered by your winners and ideally is still keeping you net ahead. So after signing up for the Profit Recycling Mastery, right, if for any of you who don't know how our alerts work, you receive trade alerts every time I make a trade in the Mastery or the $500 challenge account. And the alerts, I clearly state when and where to enter a trade and when and where to close out of a trade unless we're letting it cash settle, with the notes of my thought process along the way, so you know exactly what is going on. And I'll oftentimes, when I can, right, send updates throughout the day or at the start of market. And a lot of times I'm actually on almost every day into the close of market, the majority of the days, discussing things with y'all, looking at trade ideas, looking at the SPX pin trade. So you guys always know the thought process of what I'm looking at for the trades, what I think about them, what I think about the charts and everything else. So you always have like the inside look to my brain. And here's an example of how I like to do my alerts. So you can very clearly see at the very start of the alert exactly what it is, right? This was a butterfly on SPX. Here was the expiration. It was the 18th of May. Here were the strikes. It was on the put side. And I entered it and filled at $1.20 net debit, and it was to open. And then following that, I usually put some sort of notes here to talk about what it is. So for example, this was one side of a compound butterfly strategy trade that we were putting on, because you could see that when we put on both the call and put side and we were looking for volatility. And then I explained exactly, what we're looking for, as well as the risk, and understanding that usually on my trades, I'm okay risking 100%, which is why, partly I keep the risk as small as I can at the start. So here's a closing trade example alert, right? We sold it. Here's what we sold it for to a credit. So this was actually where we took profits on both sides. So we already took one on the call side. It came back down and we were able to take profits on the put side. And you can see right there the following notes overall. So now let's dive into capital risk and risk management. So there are a few things that were negative to me in regards to trading when I was first starting off. My eyes were glued to my charts and futures long after the market was closed. I had a lack of sleep due to how many trades I had on. My emotions were guiding my trading instead of the technicals. And, when I had a loss, it ended up being staggering, completely ate up my profits. And I was like, what is happening? And this is what I like to call the dark side of trading, if you will. And it turns you into Darth Vader, right? All of these issues I realized stemmed from one source, and it was capital risk. And in turn, it was what my own personal risk tolerance was. And that lack of understanding capital risk fed into all my negative thoughts about trading, which of course feeds into this dark side, right? Where you're trading off emotions rather than letting the strategy and the technicals guide you. And I have personally found that when I trade off emotions, I am more often probably going to be taking losses on my trades rather than profits because I'm just throwing money out there and I'm hoping something's going to work rather than following the technicals and the strategies that I know have been proven to work in the past. So it's good, of course, to have a toolbox of strategies for different market environments and adjust those strategies based off of how the market is changing. Understanding risk is one of the main keys to staying successful in your trading. If you do not have a good grasp on risk when trading, you have a greater chance of wiping out your whole trading account, right? And I've seen it firsthand from people, and I've done it once before on a small account too. So I've been there too when I didn't quite have that grasp on risk. And so this is where, I actually developed my 25% rule. And the reason why is it's because it's easy for new traders to get excited about profits they're taking and to lose sight of how investing too much capital can wipe out an account. And I say for newer traders, but let's be honest, right? Experienced traders can do the same thing when they start to get on a winning streak. They start to be like, well, I can definitely risk more here, right? They don't keep that risk tolerance in mind. And that one losing trade, right? Even the emotions of trading off of positive results can still sometimes, unfortunately, lead you into that dark side of trading, right? Where you get overconfident about things. And once again, could have the possibility of wiping out your account. So this is why I created my 25% rule, because I have found it's the best way to not blow out my account while still being able to invest my money and grow it like I want to. So, just to give you a little insight to what this rule is, for those of you who haven't heard of it, the account I split up into three different percentages amounts. I put one side, 25% of the account, and I put that away. I put another 25% account to another side, and then 50% of my account is left over. And of course, right, depending on this style of the size of your account, your trading style, maybe you're a more long-term investor, maybe this is a really small account but you're willing to risk all of it, sort of thing, right? It's not like what you're trying to make your mortgage and your bills or anything off of. So you might split up that scenario one way or the other. It's up to you to think of what your preference is, but for me, I usually do it like this: 25, 25, 50. So for the first 25%, I allocate that into new trades. And this is certainly what I do in the mastery. So for example, in the $5,000 account, 1250 into new trades. So I never risk more than 25% into new trades. I never put that full amount into one new trade. To me, that would be completely silly. It's broken apart across multiple new trades. I mean, you guys see how much I put into trades, right? So I usually have quite a few out there versus, putting a whole 1250 in just one trade idea. I leave another 1250 for management, right? Because I know I'm not going to win on every trade. I know there are going to be some trades that get behind on me or that I might end up with a loss. So if I feel like there's a possibility to maybe put a little more additional capital to manage that trade, whether, maybe it's moved down to a support level, it looks great, I should just add a little bit more capital to cost average the price to put it back up. Or maybe I'm profit recycling for management, right? Maybe I'm turning one strategy that started to go against me into another strategy that fits the current market and technical trends. So I leave a portion of my account set aside for that. And then I leave the remaining 50% untouched, 2,500. Part of this reason why is because if I did, if you were trying to do this as income, if you're trying to make a living off your trading, then you certainly don't want to risk your full account, because there are going to be days, there might even be weeks or months where the strategies that you're implementing are maybe just not working in the current market. And so you're trying to figure out what tool you need. But in that process, you have a little bit of a down, day, week, month, whatever. Well, by leaving this amount of money untouched, it one allows you to pay yourself. If you think of yourself like a business, and let's say you own a construction company, you have your trucks out on the road, and then all of a sudden your truck gets a flat tire or the engine blows, well, you know that that's eventually going to happen, right? You're going to have somebody on the side to fix those repairs, but it's all a part of business. you keep things going. And obviously, right, you're looking for the profits of your company to be able to offset those little bumps in the roads. The same thing should be true about trading and how you view it, meaning you're going to be taking some losses at some point. So the idea is that way you can still pay yourself. The other reason why I leave 50% of the account untouched is because I have found that it works completely with keeping my emotions at bay, meaning I know I am never over risking my account. So I'm able to sleep at night. I'm not as concerned about what Europe or Asia is opening or closing at because I know my full account isn't invested. And so this 50% untouched is also what keeps Darth Vader at bay, right? It keeps the dark side of trading away and keeps me on the path of the light and being calm and collected when viewing my trading each day. So, right, we want to be on the Jedi mind path, guys. So, when you have a good understanding of capital risk in regards to your account, as well as your individual trades, you're setting yourself up to succeed rather than be defeated by the dark side of trading. So, why is it important to, have a good understanding of risk, right, and how it affects your trading style? Well, of course that's important, right? Because if you don't have that understanding of risk, like I talked about, you can completely end up blowing out your account. I've unfortunately had people that I've coached, and in the very first session, we're talking about the account, where they're at, how they're feeling, and it's at a point where it's already blown, right? They've already fully invested, they traded off hopium, they didn't know when to exit, and they have no capital left over to even try and manage anything out or to, put on a quote unquote fresh trade idea or anything. And so you have to have that understanding of risk to where, how it affects your trading style and in turn keep you on the right side for your account. And then, of course, having a strategy that allows you to adapt to market conditions and remain profitable as while others fail. So, profit recycling is a strategy that I've been doing for years now. And obviously, right before this year, we've been in a predominantly bullish market environment. But just as it's worked well in the bullish market environment, it still works great in this bearish one. I would almost argue it can sometimes work better because of that volatility in the market, because it allows sometimes for some excellent moves and that ability to lock in some profits just from an intraday perspective. So once again, here's another trade example that we did in the mastery. Is a great example of how I liked to keep my risk low. It was a broken wing butterfly, so it had that forgiveness factor if I was right on direction, but maybe it just blew past the levels I was looking at, which is what happened in this case. So I was looking for it to stall maybe a little bit sooner, right around 40.30, ideally for that pin, maybe 40.25. Instead, we went right past that into the close and closed completely in the money. Well, that's fine, right? Because with how I set up this trade, it cash settled still for $5. I ended up with a 335 profit, which was a 203% return. Once again, notice how I'm really trying to look for those 200 to 1,000% return on trades, ideally, and keeping them high up there when I can. And this toolbox of strategies are great solo, but they're wonderful combined for growing your account. And some might be asking, well, how big an account do I need to be successful? And the answer is really almost any size account will do, because like I've been talking about, right, I do a $500 challenge. So the easy part about trading when you're working up into larger accounts is that you can still take the same trade ideas, but increase the contract amount to still fit in with your new risk tolerance, right? If I had a $100,000 account, then I might do 10 contracts rather than the one that I'm doing now. However, what about if a trader starts with a small account? How small can that account be to successfully grow it? Well, as some of you know, before taking maternity leave with my daughter, I decided to grow an account starting with only $500 of capital. I wanted to see how much I could grow it in 1 month's time while still being mindful of the capital risk, right? I really wanted to teach about capital risk, how you didn't have to invest all your money into one trade, which I know sounds crazy, right? $500 can easily be taken up by one contract trade. So it's like, how are you mindful of your risk, Allison? Well, I adapted my 25% rule for investing for small accounts, right? I knew I was obviously going to be investing the full $500, but I still adapted that rule to split that trade across multiple trade ideas. And then I took my toolbox of strategies and went to work. And starting with such a small amount, right, meant that I had to be extremely cautious about the capital and kept my trades limited so that they would all fit within the guidelines. And the result of the first challenge is after taking into consideration the commission cost was just a few dollars shy of 100% return on the risk, right? So basically, I was just a little bit shy of a $500 profit and a $500 account that I started off with. So to make sure it wasn't a fluke, right? I immediately jumped into a new challenge the next month, reset the account to $500, did the same thing. And I was only able to keep it up roughly for 3 weeks because the fourth week actually, I had to start considering my delivery date. So, happens. But even with just 3 weeks of time and limited trades and small risk, I was still able to grow 62% growth in that account value, right? Once again, not a bad risk versus reward. And it shows that even with a super small capital amount, using this toolbox of strategies can help in successfully growing the account while being mindful of risk. So when you ask me how small of an account, how big of an account, it's really up to you, right? As small as 500, I'd say, up to how much you want, right? So in total from that year, I ended up locking in $953 of profit before commissions. It was 808 after commissions. There's my commissions cost down there. And this was 161% return on the $500 of risk that I roughly put out there each month, right? So not a bad risk versus reward going into the end of the year. And you're like, well, Allison, that sounds nice, but that was, a while ago. What's the challenge doing now? Well, so far, a $500 challenge year to date. Mind you, this is when I made the slide. So it's actually a little less than that because I have taken a loss or two cash settling my SPX pin trades recently because they got within our range, would have made great day trades. But unfortunately, they bounced back up. So at the time I did this slide, though, it was $4,437. This is considering that I reset the account to $500 at the beginning each month, and I pay myself monthly. I 100% take out my profits and then I restart with $500 again. And so overall, right, not a bad place to be for the year, knowing that I restart each month at $500. And like I said, some months I might not do a lot of trades if I'm not really seeing the setups that I like for that account. And in turn, I'm still doing good overall. I think we're still right around 4,000 for the year, if I remember correctly from looking at it today. So, still up nicely. When I say we've taken a hit or two, it's not like I've wiped the account out. Let me just be clear about that, right? We're still at or right around that $4,000 mark of profits for today, year to date, as in right now, this minute. So I am net ahead for the year in the midst of all this volatility because my risk parameters don't allow me to lose too much money on any single trade, and my returns typically make up for multiple losses, right? And this is important in risk management. So once again, another example of a trade from the $500 challenge. This one we did at $1.80. This was another SPX Lotto pin. Like I said, I've done a lot of these this year, and overall they've been pretty good. This was for an 807 profit. It was a 627% return on our risk. $627 profit, a 348% return on our risk, right? The idea is that when we hit a win like this, it can obviously make up for the losses and ideally still keep you net ahead for the month, right? For the year, for the week. So, as we know, losses are an inevitable part of trading. I know Jar Jar Binks isn't maybe a fan of everybody's, right? Some people consider him the loser of Star Wars. I still like his character. But even so, right, I enter each trade knowing my risk and being okay losing 100% of it. That's part of the reason um, why I keep my risks as small as I do, because I have found with my personality type, it is better for me to risk 100% of it that way than to try and do things like stop losses. The key is to keep your losses small and learn from them. At least that is what I have found to be beneficial for myself. And the beauty of my strategy is that with risk management, the wins make up for the losses and then some, as we'll see. So here's an example of a loss from the mastery, right? This one I put in for $1.20. Unfortunately, it did not work out well. This is actually what I mentioned earlier, where it was the one time I didn't take into consideration the strategy. It's like I thought I knew better on what was going to happen after the Fed news. I was like, we're definitely going to sell off. So I don't need the other side of my compound butterfly strategy, right? I think I know what's right. And in turn, it was a great lesson of Allison, do what you've been doing, which is playing the volatility. You don't necessarily have to be right on the direction, then you can just take advantage of these wild swings. And so because I didn't stick with my trading plan, right? And it ended up being 100% loss. So that's okay. Here's another one that ended up being a small loss. This one was because I did not stay within the criteria of entering it within my time of day. So this one I was actually on vacation for, but I still wanted to put an SPX Lotto pin trade out there because I can never stay away from trading during vacation. So I set one up earlier in the day when we were appearing to be holding support. The trend was bullish. I was like, yeah, this will bounce. We'll probably go up higher. So I set something up in line with that. Instead, we broke support, moved lower, bounce. And here's the time of day, this little bracket here, when I typically look for an SPX Lotto pin trade. And if I had seen this, that day where we were failing resistance and we were starting to roll down, knowing that we had lows back here, I would have played this down into support, right? Waiting for that time of day is really key for those SPX pins in my book. But once again, it was a lesson learned, right? So I took the loss. Then, right, we ended up with this trade. We took this on June 10th, 135 for our entry, once again, keeping our risk small the entire time. And here we got the win. We got just 86 cents shy of our pin at 3,900. It was a 914 profit. So it was a $779 profit of 577% return on risk. So what does that mean? It means that this profit easily covered my two losers. All of them were cash settled. So for these three examples, right, all of them were cash settled. So there was no day trade hit for that limitation. And obviously the winner offsets the loser and still keeps me net ahead overall. And that's key, right? So why is this happening? Well, it's happening because I aim to never risk, ideally on these SPX Lotto pins, more than $1.50 per trade, but shoot for 8 times 2 times 10 of my initial leverage, right? I'm looking for the good returns versus the risk. And in particular with this strategy, this is how I remain in the green despite the insane volatility, because I allow that risk to be contained and controlled, but still keep my profit potential high so that I can really maximize that reward if I can get, certainly the pin, if not some sort of profit on the trade idea. So what's next? Well, if you've ever blown out your account, it can be frustrating and disheartening, right? I've been there before. It is no fun. And it certainly can keep you in like a death spiral on the dark side of trading with all your emotions being caught up in yourself. And certainly in the current market environment, right, even the most seasoned traders can still have problems growing their accounts. I mean, you look at all the hedge funds, right? Don't even get me started on the crypto side, but you're seeing what this market's doing to people, right? They are losing money. And so certainly I feel like with the volatility, we can actually take advantage of this. And so as the volatility has remained the norm in 2022, like it has, it's even more important to have that handle on risk because option premiums on just like long calls and puts are spiked more than usual. And so we have to be mindful of that. And of course, everyone can use some extra clarification on the chart and narrowing down those great entries and exits. So, keeping my risk at the forefront and my toolbox of strategies ready by my side, I am ready to start growing my accounts once more. So, if you want to join player one, i.e., me, and if you want to be player two, right, and want to enter the game, then certainly you can do that following me along in the profit recycling mastery. So, like I said, all of these strategies are stuff that I've been using, and I really wanted to get y'all to come check them out, certainly. And so we've made these three different tiers for essentially to try. We have a 30-day trial currently in the mastery that you can do, which is $97. And all you'll get is just the mastery. Obviously, you'll get my alerts. I'm usually on the mic, like I said, almost every day into market close. Thursdays are the one day a week that are a little weird that I can't promise, but almost every other day I'm on going into the close, looking at these SPX Lotto pin trades, looking for trade ideas, discussing the account, answering questions. And then, of course, we have the quarterly at 297. So you get a quarter of the membership, right, for the quarter, not just the 30 days. You get a whole quarter's worth. But you also get the SPX Lotto class. So I've had a lot of people ask me about the SPX pin butterfly classes. Like, what's the strategy? Like, I cannot tell you how many questions I have gotten on that this year. And I've tried to explain it within like my sessions. And I always end up like either really rushing it or running out of time, or I'm only focused on the specific trade rather than, implementing the strategy. And certainly the people in the mastery, have had a little bit more insight to that because, like I said, I'm on the mic usually walking through the levels and the trade ideas going into the close. So I thought, what better way, a bonus for the mastery than to give y'all this class already, because it's something we do there every day. So if you sign up for the quarterly, you'll also get the bonus of the SPX Lotto Pin Butterfly class that I just finished working on, actually. And then if you sign up for the annual membership, you get the Profit Recycling Mastery for the year. You get certainly the SPX bonus Lotto Butterfly Lotto Pin Trade class. We get the Intro to Butterflies class. So for those of you who are newer in general to trading or maybe need a refresher, this is a great course to take, especially because, like I mentioned, butterflies have been extremely useful this year on keeping your risk small, but still allowing for some excellent profit potentials, especially if you're using the different types of butterflies. If you might have heard earlier, I talked about broken wing butterflies, right? Standard butterflies. There are a lot of different types. And in this video, I introduce you to those different types of butterflies and walk you through how they work. And then I also have a bonus class on the options chain class. If you don't have a good understanding of the option chain, right? Personally, I think it's imperative to have that whenever you're profit recycling or just trading in general. But it's a great go-to class to really dive into the option chain itself. So you get 2 extra bonus classes on top of the SPX pin one I've just done. And then you'll get 2 live breakout sessions. So it's going to be time added on to when I'm usually in the room. Like I said, I'm in the mastery quite a bit, but there are 2 live sessions on top of that where we'll really dive into Q&A answers. If it's going into the close that day, right, for the time, we'll be looking at SPX pin trades in the second half, but it's really a great place to dive into questions, to really break down the strategies used and everything else. And so you'll get those 2 extra sessions of that as well. So like I mentioned, the 30-day trial is just $97. So you get the full month. You'll get access to all the trade alerts that I send out there for the Mastery and Challenge account. You'll get access to all the live trading sessions, which, like I said, I'm in there quite a bit, as well as my insight and updates and everything else on what the market and our trades are doing. And there's no contract, right, or obligation. If you choose to stay beyond the 30-day trial, your quarterly membership will automatically renew at the $297 rate, and your rate won't increase for as long as you're an active member. For the quarterly package, like I mentioned, it's $297. And like I also mentioned, a lot of fun teaching these SPX Lotto Pin butterfly strategies. So it's a class that I'm going to be coming out with in a little bit, right? I've already made the slides and started the recordings of it and stuff. But for anyone who's in the mastery, for the quarterly package or beyond, they will end up getting access to the SPX Lotto Pin class for free, right? Isn't that nice? So that way it's not like you have to pay for an added class or anything like that. You'll automatically get access to this if you're on for the quarterly or the annual package. And like I said, I've had a lot of people ask about this. So if you're really interested in learning that strategy, there are quite a few slides around it, just to be clear. So it was a lot longer class than I anticipated it being, but I wanted to give y'all as much information as I could possible, around the strategy and how it's been working and the things to keep in mind. And so you'll get access to that class for free. It'll come up as a part of that package. The annual package at $997, you'll get everything that I just mentioned. So you'll get the whole year of the Profit Recycling Mastery, all the alerts that go with it, right? All the insights, all the live trading with it. And then you'll, of course, get the SPX Lotto Pin Trade class, as well as the bonus here is the Intro to Butterfly class, the Options Chain class. So you're basically getting 3 classes with this package on top of the annual membership. And then you're also going to have access to 2 live sessions. So technically it's a total of 5 guaranteed live sessions within the first month. But like I mentioned, I'm in there quite a bit. So you'll get a lot of me in the Profit Recycling Mastery because I'm usually on at least in the last hour of close each day. So for those of you, like I mentioned, the Intro to Butterflies class is where I talk about all the different butterfly strategies. And as you might have heard, right, one of the strategies that I'm using this year is the compound butterfly strategy, which is a little bit more advanced than butterflies. But if you're newer to butterflies, or if you just want a refresher, this is a great introduction class because it's right, one of the main strategies that I've been using throughout the volatility this year that's been really working in this market environment. And it works great, right, even in bullish market environments. But I feel in particular, some of the strategies that we've been focusing on with the compound butterfly strategy have been really nice within this volatility to allow for that forgiveness factor, keeping the risk low, but still having some nice profit potentials. And like I also said, a lot of the SPX pin trades do also incorporate butterflies. So it gets you all that knowledge so you're good to go. And then we also have the options chain class as the bonus. And I think that's critical in general for if you want to be a successful options trader, if you want to know the strategies, right? If you want to know how the option chain works, then this is a good class to go to. And I personally think, like I said, it's imperative to really know how the option chain works, right? How it's set up if you want to do profit recycling. And if you want a good understanding and handle of the profit recycling strategy, this is a good base class for it. And it's, exclusive training, so you can dive in. Both of these classes are pre-recorded, so you'll have immediate access to them if you sign up. The SPX Lotto class, you won't have immediate access to, but you will still get that for free once it comes out. And then, like, of course, I mentioned you'll get the 2 live bonus sessions where there'll be a deeper dive, right? It will be basically a special Q&A session. We'll dive deeper into the strategies, the charts, the technicals. We'll talk about what's been happening in the volatile market, right? And then certainly if we're going into the close that day, we'll still look for like SPX pin trades and stuff as well. But it's a great time to really dive in, ask me whatever questions you have, and I'm more than happy to really spend that time answering it and analyzing everything in real time during market hours. So the goal of the profit recycling mastery is to target short-term moves without triggering the dreaded 25K day trading rule. Now, I will note every now and then we do put on a longer term trade if, I think it's needed, if it makes sense in the market environment. But no matter what, we keep our risk low and we keep it controlled. And so, of course, I look to take advantage of both swing style trades as well as intraday moves, while, of course, being risk adverse in this market environment and keeping that risk small. And it's ideal for traders who seek consistent weekly gains with limited time and capital. Now, like I mentioned, I work right throughout the day. I'm in live trading room sessions, I'm handling the kids. And so a lot of times, unless it's like specifically a trade off an intraday move, the majority of the times I don't put on my swing trades until like that last hour of market. That's usually when I like to do the majority of my trading actually. So if you're limited, right, if you're working or maybe you could only focus a little bit of your time on the trades, well, if you can have your phone and have the alerts ready for that last hour. So even if you can't follow along and you can only listen to the archives, you can still take advantage of the trade alerts. You certainly can. Or, right, if you're like me and you're busy throughout the day, well, if you can commit to the last hour and being on the mic, then certainly you're going to get a lot of insight in real time whenever we open these trades and go about them or look for an SPX lotto pen trade or things like that. And certainly, if you've ever struggled with risk, or if you want to learn any of these strategies, like I mentioned, like the profit recycling one or the compound butterfly strategy, this is a great introduction to them, right? So you don't have to go out there and necessarily buy the class. You can come here, really, learn about it, and then, of course, if you want more information, you can go from there. And of course, real-time trade ideas. All the trades that I take are real money trades. I don't paper trade. So any alert that gets sent out, I have my money behind it. So I want it to work just as much as you do, right? I want my account to grow. So if you're struggling with risk, right, we have the 25% rule that we talk about in the mastery. We really keep it focused. We keep the risk small. There are the strategies to learn, like the profit recycling strategy or the compound butterfly or the overnight profit strategy. All of those have been implemented and pretty good this year so far, as of to date. And then, of course, if you want real-time trade ideas, if you want to follow along with the trade alerts to try and get a grasp on doing it, in real time with trade ideas that I'm taking, you can certainly do that for yourself. And of course, all of those, if you have the Simpler Trading app, can be directly sent to your phone through the notifications. So, and of course, if you join the Profit Recycling Master, you have immediate access to the archive. So you can go back in there and see what I talked about yesterday. I wasn't on the mic into the close today because it was a Thursday, but you can see what I was talking about yesterday. the day before. If you're like, how did she choose this SPX lotto pin trade that I, took back in May? You can go back to that date, right? More than likely, I was on the mic. So you could go back, listen to it, and really dive into that understanding. And you can get updates as the market fluctuates, right? I usually send out morning updates when I can. I send out updates throughout the day if I'm seeing something change within the market, trying to keep y'all clued into things, to be mindful of stuff. And then even if you can't attend all the sessions live, I understand, right? I'm busy. If you're busy too, totally get it. But you'll have access to all the recordings so that way you can watch them at your own convenience. So if you're out for a week on vacation, maybe you still followed along with the trade alert though, and you're like, man, why did you do that one? Well, you can go back and listen to it certainly. And of course, right, what's working now? We get to stay connected within the community and know firsthand when things are changing. Like last year, for example, I wasn't doing too hot with my hedge trades. I kept putting them on, and then the market would like it almost be a fake out last year, right? Though finally we're getting that selling this year, but it was like I was anticipating it too soon or something. So, right, when that happens, I go through my trading journal, I go back, I take a look at what's not working, and then we reapply new tools in the toolbox for the market. And this is how, right, I'm able to keep my account from not being blown out, and at the same time keeping that risk in the forefront, so that if I am, taking some losers like that with a strategy that just shouldn't be implemented in the current market environment, then I switch gears. I go from a hammer to, a table saw, and I'm ready to go again. And of course, if you want to trade with more confidence, right? We're here to help you master the profit recycling strategy, which I used back in the day to grow a 10K account to over 43,000 in 90 days. And it was actually in a bit more of a volatile market environment like this when that happened. So, it works out well. Like I said, volatility is really great for this strategy when you can implement it. So here are the technical, all the live trading sessions that are guaranteed. Now, like I said, you'll for sure get at least 3 a month. But I'm on almost every day, guys. With Thursdays, might be like the last 30 minutes of market. It kind of depends on that day because I have an engagement somewhere else that kind of cuts into my time there. But everything else is I'm usually on the last hour market close, and you guys, you know, for those of you in there, then you already know you guys get a lot of me. So and it's not just me. People have asked for this mastery in the past. They like the strategies, they like my style of teaching. So I'm always happy, to help people out and to get those profits. Dragonfly, did it say July 35th? That was probably a late night typo. So clearly not the case. I can double check that now, actually. But you'll definitely get one. We're not making up dates. We're not going to cheat you or anything, right? Um, but of course, um, you know, a, a lot of people seem to like the strategy, so it's not something that it's just me getting behind, but other people seem to like it too. And I want to teach you guys, what's been helping me and what's been helping others from what they tell me grow their accounts. And if you want to, PayPal does have the ability to do interest-free payments. So, of course, with inflation and everything else, if your wallet's a little bit tighter, right? You're like, oh, I really want to join this, but I'd rather spread out those payments. With the PayPal credit, if you get approved, you can, right? With 0% interest for 6 months. So it's a better way to do it, more like a subscription service or something. Each month, if you don't feel like you want to pay the full 297 or 997, or I guess even 97, right? If you really want to break that apart, you have the ability to do so through PayPal, through their credit, if you get approved to that. So once again, just the different packages here. The 30-day trial will just be the Profit Recycling Mastery membership, but you can test it out, see if it's something that fits your trading style, your personality type, and see if it's a match for you. And if it is, right, you can then jump on to that quarterly expiration. Or if you already think like, man, I really want to know how Allison does her profit recycling or the SPX end of day lotto pin trades, like I want that insight, I want to follow along, try it out for the quarter, right? It's 297, and then that way you also get to take advantage of getting the SPX lotto class for free, right? Because that's not going to be free for everyone. It's just going to be free for the people that are signed up for the quarterly or annual and the mastery. And then of course there's the annual package at 997, so you'll have the mastery for the full year, right? So this is for the quarter, this is for the entire year. But on top of that, you also get the SPX Pin Lotto Trade class for free. You get the Intro to Butterfly class for free. You get the Option Chain class for free. And you get 2 bonus live Q&A deep dive sessions with me for free. So you get all that on top of the rate there itself. And like I said, I really wanted to give you guys the SPX Lotto Pin Trade class for free because, like I said, we've been doing it so much in there. It's been such a great strategy. And I know even in the mastery, sometimes when I'm walking through it on the mic, there are still people in there that are like, wait, how did you choose this? What are you looking at? And so it's a great way to have that education and class available to you, to go back and look through it or anything else. So I'm really excited to give that to y'all for free overall. But of course, right, if you guys have any questions, I am more than happy to answer them. So let me pull up the question doc and I am happy to go. So year to date on the mastery overall, we're in the green. I'd have to go back and check exactly where it's at. But yeah, we're in the green in the mastery. We're up, and we're definitely up in the $500 challenge account. So we're up for the year. I can't remember quite what that number is, so I do apologize. But I know I'm profitable. uh, and then yes, the quarterly I believe does keep renewing at 297. Um, So how many trade signals in a given week can you, well, it depends, right? So how many trade signals given in a week? It depends on how the market's moving and how it's trading. But if you're asking me in general how many trades I take a week, well, SPX now, mind you, SPX at the start of the year didn't have expiration every day. So we moved into that throughout the year to where we have Monday through Friday expiration now when the market's open. So I like to do those SPX Lotto pin trades. So you have an idea there, right? Maybe 5 a week with that. But on top of that, I still look at swing trades. Like we did an Amazon trade to the downside the other day that we locked in profit on and profit recycled. We do the compound butterfly strategy, usually at least once a week in there because that's what's been working in this market environment. So you get quite a few alerts. And even if it's not a trade that I take when I'm on the mic with y'all going into the close, if it's not looking like an SPX Lotto pin trade idea, day, or maybe we're already in it, I'm always happy to go through charts and stuff and give you my 2 cents on how they look, even if I'm not taking the trade, right? Because I do trade a smaller account than probably some of you. Yeah, I'll still give you my 2 cents on what I think looks good there, and certainly it's up to you to do what you think is best for your account. How many trade signals? Oh, I read that one. I apologize. Is all this based on classes taught on profit recycling? No, not all of it. So it's called the Profit Recycling Mastery because it started off that way. But I do incorporate all my strategies in general. So like I mentioned, the compound butterfly strategy is a class that I've done here at Simpler, and that's a strategy we've been using a lot this year. The overnight profit strategy is another one that we use off divergent bars, which is usually like on a daily chart, we're usually in the trade for about 3 days maybe at most. And those are so all of these strategies that I teach are within the mastery. uh Sorry, I read a funny comment there. You guys are hilarious. So we are told when to exit trades. Yes, so if I actually close the trade, then I'll let y'all know. Of course, you should always do what you think is best for your account, but I try and keep y'all up to date as much as possible. The only time I might never alert an exit is if I'm letting the trade cash settle, right? So the SPX Lotto pin trades, you rarely see a closing order from me because I let those cash settle. I usually give an update afterwards, like, hey, here's where cash settled. This is what happened, profit, loss, or whatever. But otherwise, those are the only times that you won't get an exit order. Otherwise, I definitely keep you up to date with what the happenings with the trade, my thoughts around it, and what I plan to do with it in my account. And yeah, if you're already in the mastery, please feel free to go and contact customer support if you want to. Certainly, you will obviously, if you're in the quarterly or annual membership already, you will be getting access to that SPX pin class for free for sure. But always call, always call. And if we can't attend the live sessions, 100% they're recorded. They're recorded and in the archive, so you'll be good to go there. And so for the but great question, the butterfly class and the option chain class are already pre-recorded. These were classes that I've done a while ago. So you'll have immediate access to them. The SPX pin class Not yet, right? Not yet, but it is coming out soon. But I just wanted to highlight it in here because I am making that available for free to all the mastery folks. So I thought that would be relevant, right? But that one isn't technically out yet. I'm finishing up the final stuff on it now, actually. Um, And then, yeah, if you like the everything with the annual, but you want to make monthly payments, the PayPal might be the best way to go about it, right? To where you can do that for zero interest and spread apart those payments for 6 months. So, that's how I would probably look to do it myself personally. If I was trying to break apart the payments like that, which, like I said, totally understand in the current world economy, right? Um, and then if you're talking about after this webinar, if the packages will be available, they're available for a limited time. So it's not like it's like sign up now or never again. It's not, it's not that. But it will be available for a limited time. Like this is a limited promotion deal for the mastery. Um, so do want to be clear about that. But it's not like you have to sign up right this second, like immediately today, or that's it. And is there an average number of trades? Yeah, so like I mentioned, usually there are several trades a week at minimum that I'm jumping into, both from just a pin side and then from like intraday or swing trades or something. So you get quite a few from me throughout the month, certainly. But of course, it all depends on if there's a setup. Because if there's no setup, then we shouldn't really be putting our capital out there to risk, right? And yes, I am resetting it to $500 tomorrow in the $500 challenge. So we'll start fresh once again. And yes, if you're already a part of the mastery, as I mentioned on the quarterly or annual membership, you will get that for free, the SPX class. And yes, the strategy is different from the Phoenix formula. Phoenix is something with Danielle's class. Um, and that's not something I teach. But if you want to learn from that, certainly go check out Danielle because that is her baby, right? I do a lot of trades in SPX. In particular, SPX has been great in general to trade this year because it is cash settled, which is obviously something I like. Uh, but when you have this much volatility in the market, sometimes the market itself can be the best thing to trade, is what I have found. So I do a lot of SPX trades just because I favor it, but it's not the only thing we trade. And yes, if you start with the 30-day trial and then opt for the quarterly package, you should have access then to the SPX pin class. I believe that's the case. If you're specifically signing up for the trial here and then go into that, you'll get access to the pin class. And if you want to upgrade to the annual package after the 30-day trial, you should be able to just contact support. I don't see why they wouldn't give you the additional deal of this package and this promotion that we're doing here. So it would have to probably be like a one-off situation, right? So if you just call in and explain like, hey, I was on the 30-day trial, I'm looking to upgrade to the annual, and I still want to get that package, I'm sure, we could do that. And the compound butterfly strategy is technically different than the intro to butterflies class. But like I said, that is a great place to start. So it's technically a different class. The compound butterfly class is a lot more invasive into it. And you would certainly want to know what butterflies are before considering that class, I would say. so so it's a good bonus to have on. And certainly in the mastery, right, with the compound butterfly strategies that we've been using, I do walk through them whenever we put them on, and we talk about them and everything like that. So even if you're not familiar with the class, we do talk about it, and I explain it in the mastery with whatever live trade we're actually in at the time. And that looks like the majority of the questions. My charts, yeah, I have some shared chart links, which I'm always happy with the free indicators, of course, that I'm always happy to give out to y'all in the mastery. Um, and then I love the Squeeze Pro. I don't use the trend strength turbo candles. I don't know if I've ever even looked into that, so maybe that's something I should. But I do have a few indicators that I use myself, like the divergent bars, the compound breakout tool, the true low. You don't necessarily need those to be able to still participate in the trades and the mastery, but that is something I incorporate into my analysis for sure. And then I can't tell you for sure how much we'll be able to grow the account size within 6 months, right? I can't foresee the future and how those, how the trades are going to work versus the track record that we have, because I have no idea ultimately what's going to happen. I just try and do what the technicals are telling me, right? Take advantage of the knowledge that's out there with the best of my ability, but most importantly, controlling that risk. So that way, if I'm wrong, I still can try and net myself overall with my winning profits versus my losses. So I can't tell you for sure how much you could grow in 6 months. Um, but like I said, with the $500 challenge, we've only risked $500 a month each month, and we're up, around 4K for the year. So, I still don't know how it's going to do the remainder of the months, mind you, but we'll go from there, right? And then that uh, I think is my time, guys. I actually do have to go. I apologize if I didn't get to every question. Please, please, please feel free to contact customer support if you have any other questions, and they will be happy to help you out, whether it's through email or through calling us. But unfortunately, I do have to go because the kids are already way late for bedtime. So thank you guys for joining me. I hope y'all have amazing rest of your evening. I look forward to talking with y'all tomorrow in the free trading room, hopefully, or somewhere else that's simpler if you're already out there. If I find a $500 challenge trade I like, I will certainly let you guys know. But otherwise, may the trade be with you, my fellow Jedis, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.